The young sergeant shakes his head and laughs loudly for everyone to hear. Ma'am, maybe you should try the basic marksmanship course instead. This is advanced sniper training, not a hobby class for grandmothers. 62-year-old Linda Chen adjusts her rifle scope in the forest training ground as active duty soldiers snicker and point. None of them notice the faded Army Ranger tab barely visible on her worn tactical vest from 25 years of elite military service. What happens when she takes that impossible 1,200-yard shot will silence every doubter. Hit subscribe and comment about a female veteran whose skills amazed you. These women warriors deserve our respect. Linda had signed up for the Advanced Civilian Marksmanship program at Fort Braxton as a way to stay sharp in retirement. She missed the precision and focus that shooting required. But when she arrived at the training ground, she immediately realized she was the oldest person there by at least 30 years. The program was run by active-duty military instructors and attracted mostly young veterans and law enforcement officers. Everyone else looked like they belonged in recruitment posters. Fit, young, and confident. Sergeant Jake Morrison was the lead instructor, a cocky 28-year-old who had completed 2 deployments in Afghanistan. He took one look at Linda and assumed she was lost or in the wrong place. "Ma'am," he called out as she set up her equipment, "are you sure you're in the right program? We have a beginner's class that might be more appropriate for someone your age." The other participants turned to look. There were about 20 people total, mostly men in their 20s and 30s. A few women, but all much younger than Linda. "I'm exactly where I need to be," Linda replied calmly, continuing to assemble her rifle. Jake walked over, followed by several curious trainees. This is a 1,000-yard precision shooting course. It's pretty challenging, even for experienced shooters. One of the younger participants, a former Marine named Brad, laughed. "Grandma, you sure you can even hold that rifle steady? Your hands are probably shaking just from the weight." More laughter from the group. Someone pulled out a phone to record what they assumed would be an embarrassing attempt by an old woman trying to keep up with much younger, stronger people. Linda looked up from her rifle setup. "My hands are fine. Thank you." Jake continued his condescending attitude. "Ma'am, this isn't like shooting at a county fair. These targets are extremely small at extreme distances. It requires years of training and perfect physical conditioning." A woman in her 30s joined in. "No offense, but shouldn't you be at home knitting or something? This is serious military-style training." The group was growing more animated, feeding off each other's mockery. Someone called out, "Bet she can't even see the target without her reading glasses." Linda stood up slowly, her rifle properly configured and ready. She was shorter than most of the men around her, with gray hair and lines on her face that spoke of decades of experience. But her posture was straight, and her movements were precise. "Well then," she said quietly, "I guess we'll find out." Jake gestured toward the shooting line with exaggerated courtesy. "Ladies first," he said with a smirk. "Let's see what you've got, Grandma." The group followed Linda to the firing position. The targets were set at various distances, 600, 800, 1,000, and 1,200 yards. The wind was gusting unpredictably through the trees, making accurate shooting extremely difficult. Jake explained the course of fire as if Linda had never held a weapon before. "You'll have 5 shots at each distance. The targets are standard military silhouettes with scoring rings. Most people are lucky to hit the target at all at these ranges." Brad was still recording with his phone. "This is going to be hilarious," he whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Linda took her position on the shooting mat, settling behind her rifle with movements that looked surprisingly natural. She spent several minutes studying the wind flags and observing how the vegetation was moving at different distances. "Take your time, Grandma," someone called out. "We've got all day." But Linda was in her element now. The noise and mockery around her faded into background as she entered the focused mental state that had made her one of the military's most effective snipers decades ago. She chambered her first round and settled into position. Her breathing became slow and controlled. Her body went perfectly still. The 600-yard shot came first. Linda's rifle cracked once, and through the spotting scope, the target showed a perfect center hit. "Lucky shot," Jake muttered, but his voice had lost some of its cockiness. The 800-yard target was next. Again, one shot, perfect center hit. The group was getting quieter now. Even with luck, 2 perfect shots in these wind conditions was impressive. At 1,000 yards, Linda's shot was slightly off-center, but still well within the highest scoring ring. The group was silent now, watching with growing amazement and confusion. But it was the 1,200-yard shot that would change everything. At that distance, the target looked like a tiny speck even through the rifle scope. The wind was swirling unpredictably, and even experienced shooters often missed the target completely. Linda spent almost 5 minutes reading the conditions, adjusting her scope, and calculating the shot. The group watched in complete silence now, phones out, but no longer recording mockingly. She settled into position, controlled her breathing, and slowly squeezed the trigger. The shot seemed to hang in the air forever. At 1,200 yards, it takes over a second for the bullet to reach the target. Through the spotting scope, the target showed a perfect bullseye hit. The silence was deafening. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. That's when a voice called out from behind the group. "Outstanding shooting, soldier." Everyone turned to see Colonel Patricia Hayes, the base commanding officer, walking up with her aide. Linda immediately recognized the voice and rank insignia. Colonel Hayes continued walking until she was standing directly beside Linda. "I was observing from the tower, and that 1,200-yard shot in these conditions was absolutely perfect." Jake stammered, "Ma'am, I didn't know you were watching. This is just our civilian training program." Colonel Hayes looked at Linda with obvious recognition and respect. "Not just any civilian, Sergeant. Would you care to introduce me to your star pupil?" Jake looked confused. "Ma'am, this is, I'm sorry. I don't think I got your name." Linda stood and faced the colonel. "Linda Chen, ma'am. Master Sergeant, retired." The colonel nodded with a slight smile. "And what unit did you serve with, Master Sergeant Chen?" 75th Ranger Regiment, ma'am. 2nd Battalion. Specialized Sniper Operations." The group was staring now with growing understanding and embarrassment. Colonel Hayes addressed the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at one of the most accomplished snipers in Army history. Master Sergeant Chen served 3 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Her confirmed kill count is classified, but I can tell you it's substantial." Jake's face was bright red now. The phone recordings had stopped completely. The colonel continued. "Master Sergeant Chen held the record for longest confirmed kill shot in the 75th Ranger Regiment for over 8 years. She trained dozens of current active duty snipers, many of whom are still serving today." Linda remained at attention, uncomfortable with the attention, but proud of her service. But Colonel Hayes wasn't finished. In 2007, Master Sergeant Chen was part of a joint operation in the mountains of Afghanistan. Her unit was providing overwatch for a convoy that came under heavy ambush. She eliminated 7 enemy combatants at ranges exceeding 1,000 yards, allowing the convoy to escape without casualties. The silence was so complete you could hear birds chirping in the forest around them. For that action, she received the Silver Star Medal. She also holds the Bronze Star with V device, 2 Purple Hearts, and the Combat Action Badge. Brad, who had been recording earlier, slowly put his phone away, his face burning with shame. Colonel Hayes looked directly at Jake. "Sergeant Morrison, I believe you owe Master Sergeant Chen an apology. And perhaps you might consider what you can learn from someone with her experience." Jake stepped forward, his earlier cockiness completely gone. "Master Sergeant, I owe you a huge apology. My behavior was unprofessional and disrespectful. I'm sorry, ma'am. Linda looked at this young soldier who had been so dismissive just an hour before. Son, she said calmly, I've been underestimated my whole career. First because I was a woman in a male-dominated field. Now because I'm older in a young person's military. But my rifle doesn't care about my age or gender. It only cares about my skill. She turned to address the entire group. I've been shooting for over 40 years. I've made shots under enemy fire that would make your training exercises look easy. Age brings experience, wisdom, and steady nerves that you can't get from youth alone. A young woman in the group stepped forward. Ma'am, could you teach us? I mean, if you have time? Linda smiled. That's why I'm here. Not to show off, but to stay sharp and maybe pass along some knowledge to the next generation. Colonel Hayes nodded approvingly. Master Sergeant, would you consider helping Sergeant Morrison with his advanced training program? I think these young soldiers could benefit greatly from your expertise. Linda looked around at the faces watching her. The mockery was gone, replaced by genuine respect and curiosity. These young warriors reminded her of herself decades ago, eager, confident, but still learning. I'd be honored, Colonel, she replied. Over the next several hours, Linda taught the group techniques she had learned through decades of combat experience. Wind reading, range estimation, breathing control, mental preparation. Knowledge that couldn't be found in manuals or learned in classrooms. The video of her perfect 1,200-yard shot, followed by the colonel's revelation of her identity, was shared thousands of times on social media. But more importantly, it sparked conversations about respecting veterans regardless of age or gender. Linda's story became a reminder that skill, experience, and dedication don't have expiration dates. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from those who look least like what we expect a teacher to be. And sometimes, just sometimes, the old soldier still has the steadiest hands and the sharpest eye in the group.